America's grocery aisles may soon feel the heat, not from jalapenos, but from tomatoes. In a dramatic shakeup, the Trump administration has torched a 30-year-old trade agreement that slapped a 17% tariff on fresh tomatoes from Mexico.
On July 14, 2025, a major shift occurred in the U.S. Mexico trade relationship. The U.S. abruptly pulled out of its long-standing tomato trade agreement with Mexico, a move that sent shockwaves through the market. The government imposed a 17% anti-dumping tariff on all fresh Mexican tomatoes, with no prior warning or negotiations. The consequences were immediate and severe, as tomato prices soared and grocery store shelves emptied. However, instead of responding with direct retaliation, Mexico executed a strategic pivot that would ultimately change the dynamics of the trade and supply chain systems across North America. 1. The tariff shockwave. U.S. abruptly ends tomato trade pact. The termination of the tomato suspension agreement, which had been in place since 1996, left many industry players stunned. This agreement had set a framework to prevent unfair pricing practices, including dumping, by establishing price floors and rigorous inspection protocols. Its sudden cancellation by the U.S. Department of Commerce left little time for preparation. The official justification for this move was to protect U.S. farmers from unfair competition, which had long been a concern of the Florida Tomato Exchange. However, it came amid escalating trade tensions between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, with Washington imposing a 25% tariff on most imports from these countries earlier in the year. By mid-July 2025, the U.S. was dealing with an average tariff rate of 18.4%, which hit hard as Mexico supplied approximately 70% of the fresh tomatoes consumed in the U.S. market, valued at roughly $3 billion annually. Prices jumped by 30% to 45%, especially during the summer months when domestic production was lower. Tomatoes, once a routine grocery item, became a geopolitical flashpoint, affecting everything from dinner tables to distribution networks. 2. From grocery bags to paychecks. The fallout hits home. The tariffs' impact reverberated through the U.S. economy in ways that extended far beyond the produce section. Major retailers like Walmart and Kroger immediately passed on the increased costs to consumers, with tomato prices skyrocketing by as much as 10% or more, particularly in border states like Texas and Arizona. In some stores, a single tomato pack was priced double. Public institutions like school cafeterias and fast food chains also felt the crunch, reducing or eliminating tomato-based items from their menus. For example, one teacher in Illinois recalled students asking where the tomatoes had gone as salads became increasingly sparse. At the same time, families relying on government food assistance through SNAP benefits had to forego fresh produce entirely, opting instead for cheaper, less nutritious alternatives. Further down the supply chain, dozens of Latinx-owned import businesses shuttered, resulting in significant job losses in logistics, from truck drivers to warehouse workers. Border hubs in Texas, such as Laredo and McAllen, saw warehouses go dark, and tomato-dependent states like New York and Minnesota faced price hikes or even complete shortages. While the U.S. economy reeled from this disruption, Mexico had already begun preparing its countermeasures. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way. 3. Mexico's tactical detour from tariffs to rail tracks. Rather than engaging in a direct trade war, Mexico quickly turned to logistical innovation. In just 3 months, agribusiness leaders in Mexico, alongside Canadian Pacific Railway, CP, launched a revolutionary cold chain rail system that bypassed U.S. border checkpoints entirely. This new route connected Mexican farms with Canadian ports, allowing tomatoes to travel over 2,000 kilometers from Baja California through Chihuahua and into Ontario and Quebec, all while maintaining a refrigerated environment of 1 degree Celsius. The rail corridor was more than just a logistical workaround. It was a cost-efficient and time-saving solution. By using trains instead of trucks, Mexico slashed its transportation costs by 15% compared to shipping through U.S. checkpoints. Furthermore, the cold chain extended the shelf life of the tomatoes by 4 to 5 days, reducing spoilage and increasing their value. Canada's customs-free status made it an attractive alternative to the complicated U.S. system. This strategic move enabled Mexico to continue exporting tomatoes without being subject to the new tariffs, a logistics triumph in the face of a trade shock. 4. Canada steps in: certainty, contracts, and market share. While the rail corridor was a logistical victory, Mexico also found a long-term economic partner in Canada. Major Canadian retailers such as Loblaws, Metro, and Sobeys moved quickly to secure long-term procurement deals with Mexican growers, locking in contracts through 2030. As one Ottawa official remarked, Mexico didn't just fight the tariff, they outgrew it. By 2026, nearly 48% of Mexico's fresh tomato exports were expected to go to Canada, up from less than 1% just 2 years earlier. But it wasn't just tomatoes. The success of the cold chain rail system led to expanded contracts for other agricultural products, such as avocados, strawberries, and peppers, further solidifying Canada as a reliable and stable market for Mexican exports. In response to the increased demand, Canada invested in infrastructure, including new cold storage hubs like the one in Windsor. These facilities, which were fully booked into early 2026, streamlined the customs and logistics process, effectively reducing landing costs by 8% per crate. With U.S. trade policies growing increasingly erratic, Canada provided a level of predictability and stability that was vital for both parties. 5. From tomatoes to trade routes. The global shift takes root. What began as a regional trade issue soon gained international attention. Mexico's ability to reroute its tomato exports through Canada became a case study in resilience. The success of the cold chain rail system has sparked discussions around the world, with European ports like Rotterdam and Hamburg considering similar strategies to bypass U.S. trade routes. Countries like Brazil, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan have sent delegations to Mexico to learn how it effectively circumvented U.S. tariffs. Even labeling practices evolved. By late 2025, several Canadian firms began legally labeling Mexican-grown produce under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement USMCA rules, marking the goods as products of Canada while still acknowledging their Mexican origins. This arrangement streamlined compliance and allowed for the seamless integration of Mexican supply into Canadian markets. Analysts now warn that if this model expands beyond agricultural products, potentially impacting industries like auto parts, semiconductors, and medical supplies, the U.S. could lose as much as $69 billion in trade over the next 5 years. Nations worldwide are investing in new routes, new partners, and new trade definitions, ensuring they aren't held hostage by U.S. policies. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way.